So, good evening, everyone. Today I will be talking about a very important topic on Django REST framework on JWT authentication, which is JSON Web Token. I will be explaining today how the registration, login, logout works. Well, we all know if I open any website, for example, if a user is new to that website, so first that user need to register before logging in. After registration successful, then we go to a login page, right? And then finally the dashboard opens. So this is what we can say in context to the UI part. But what is actually happening in the backend? Right? Who is actually providing the API and how the APIs are coming from the backend, how the API are generated. So today I will be talking about this topic, how the registration, login, and logout part in respective of the API endpoint. Okay, so let's start. So this is my project. As you can see, this is my project name Demo JWT. I have given this name. And okay, before explaining everything, let's first discuss about my project directory. So this is, as you can see, my project name Demo JWT. Under this, you can see these are my files, which I've already discussed in one of my previous videos, that how Django project is created and what are the files that are created during the project creation. So I have already discussed about that. So I'm not discussing over here right now. So this is my project name and this is an app. Okay. This is an app where I have provided all the logic of how the registrations and logout work, which I will be explaining one after the another. But before starting that, I will show you how the registration login APIs look like. So this is my postman. Before that, I want to see whether the project is running or not. No. Let's run my project. Python manage.py, run server. Successfully run. Now if I open my postman, that's it. Okay, now if I this so this is I have created the folder. If I open this, so this is the API or this is the URL for my registration where you can see I have already created one. So this one is I already created at the beginning for the testing purpose. So if I open so right now my basic Postgres or MySQL part is integrated. Only the basic SQL which is provided by the Django itself that has been implemented that I have used here. So if I open this, okay, you can see I have, this is my account underscore user. So you can see I have already registered a user as a student. So you can see this is my role student. Now if I open the postman over here, so these are the fields that that a user needs to fill. Let's imagine there is a registration form and where there are certain mandatory fields are there which a user need to provide first for the registration. So these are the fields that has been created. Okay. So, okay, let's give some name. Okay, first thing I want to show you some validations that I've provided. So this is already a user that has been registered. So if I want to rerun it again by clicking on the send button, so you will see over here email already exists because the validation is there. So email has to be unique. Let's change it to Ruby over here also. I'm giving Ruby 123, Ruby Ranger. And let's say the student, okay, I'm changing this to professor. I will be explaining everything. Password, let's password keep same. I don't want to mess it up. So now if I, so look, you can see this is my URL for register and this, the request will be post. Now if I click on the send button, it will take some time. Yes, now you can see the registration part has been created. Now, after registration, what happens? The user will go to the login part. So for login, this is my login. For login, two mandatory fields are provided. One is email, another is password, as you can see here. So, so now, as you can see, this is my URL for the login. Now, if I click on the send button, it takes some time. Okay. So token will be generated. I will be explaining what are these. Okay. First, I just want to show you all how actually the registration, login registration works in the backend in context to API. So I'm copying this access token. After that, this is another URL to see the profile. When user want after login, when user want to see the profile details, over here I have to give the authorization and then bear it. Then after that, this token, after providing this, after giving the send button, okay, now you can see whatever is part a user, why John Doe is coming right now. Okay. Okay, acha. I did some mistake. I'm sorry. I have provided the first user. I created for Ruby. If I go on the send button again, basically before the token generated was for the first user John Doe, but I'm going for Ruby. So I'm sorry for that. Wasting. So every token is unique. Yes. Now you can see the Ruby, I can see the Ruby's profile along with the role, which is professor. Is professor is true, is admin is student. These are false. Okay. Now, if I use this varied token and provide over here, this will be for the logout. This is the URL for logout. And if I click on the send button, it will show success message logout successful. Okay, this is how the registration login logout the process work in context to the API. Now I will be explaining to you how the logic has been created for that. So let's, okay, before that I'm showing you over here, you can see in the database also the profile has been created along with the password. So this is the password that I have provided. Now you can see the password has been, the raw password has not been saved in the database, rather a encrypted password has been stored over here. Okay. So this is one of the point which is happening here. Okay. So let's start. So this is the important files that is required for the login and registration. Let's come to the model class where I have created two classes. One class is for user. Well, user is, as you can see here, inheritance has been depicted over here. So here user is a class name, an abstract user, which is coming from django.contrib.auth.model. which is inheriting the abstract class, where abstract class is actually the base class and user is the child class. So over here, as you can see, two type of role I have provided here. Professor is student. So what's that? What's the meaning of that is when a user will go for a registration, either that person have to log in, register as a professor or as a student. So two choices will be given. So for role is actually, for example, if you imagine in the front end, in the UI part, for example, if a user is going for registration folder and is clicking on the role, so the role will come as a drop down. So there will be the input text will be, for example, it's a drop down text. By clicking on it, two choices will be there, two options will be there in the drop down. One is professor and one is student. So the user, while registration, either will go for professor or will go for student. Okay. And then the user have to fill up this forward, give this name, first name, last name, your email. Well, what are these two files? These two are very important for the user part when I'm creating a user details in the model database. User field and required fields. What are user field? User name field is what happened is basically that uh, while we create for the admin panel, okay, the admin by default create a username. So even if I don't provide this also, even if I don't provide username as well, but admin will automatically ask you for the username. Okay. So for that, username is given, but I have customized here. What I did is while user will go for login or for registration as well, or login, when user will go for login, that user have to provide certain field which needs to be unique, right? So over here, I have given the unique part as the email. So I have customized the username field and I have overridden the username field. Basically, by default, username field has username. If I do not provide this, by default, it will take username as a unique field. But I have overridden this field and I have written email. So it will ask. So right now, in spite of username, it will ask for email for login purpose. Of course, will also be there. Username will also be there, but I have customized this field by overwriting it and so that the email also be unique over here. So in the model class, I have written email field unique equals to true. That is the reason I have provided username field as email and required fields. Well, you can provide as many fields as possible. You can also write the whole thing as well. But these are the parts which are mandatory. So that's why written inside the required fields. Now, what is this class? This class is actually, you can give any name as possible. Then during registration and during the login, as you have seen over here in the Postman, as you have seen over here, a token, this two, access token and refresh token, these two are the tokens. This two has been generated. Now, what are these? Well, I will be explaining that slowly. First of all, I have created another table in the database. Okay, another table in the database in the name of user token that will store the token for the registered user. So when not registered, basically when user will go for the login, as you can see during the login time, the token has been generated. The two tokens are generated. Access token, another is refresh token, right? So that token needs to be stored somewhere because that token is a unique token for each user who will register herself or himself. For that user, every user, a token is generated. Every time when user registered first time and then go for login, a token is generated. Through that token, through that token, that a registered user or authenticated user able to access all the protected route or you can say protected endpoint. Okay. So I have created here a separate table in the database in the name of user token, where a token will be stored in context to that particular user. So over here you can see foreign key has been uh, provided here, where this user is actually the user coming from this class. So this user is actually holding the user underscore ID, the user ID of this user class, this user model class. Here, and then I have also depicted created and expired ad. Why this field has been given? So, well, during the logout time, the token must be deleted, must be removed from the database. So that's why to record the time, that at which time the token has been removed, to keep that record, I have created another field in the user token table that is in the name of expired at. So the expiration field. Okay. Uh, okay. So this, I hope these two classes are clear. Now let's go to the view part. Okay, before coming to the view, let's come back to the serializer. So over here you can see there is a serializer class dot model user. So what I did over here, I have provided ID, email, username, first name, last name, role, password, and confirm password. Okay, there is another important point. You can see here in the model class, I haven't created any field named password or confirm password, right? I haven't provided that, the password. In fact, in fact, uh, over here, but you can see in the database, the password has been generated, but you can see over here, I have given 40 at the rate 01 as a password, but you can see in the database, the raw password hasn't been stored here, but some encrypted code, you can see some different uh, mixed of code, special characters, digit, numbers are stored. This is actually the encrypted form of password. Obviously, the user doesn't want uh, its password to be publicly visible, right? Obviously, the user will not want, and also to keep the user's profile completely safe. This is the reason in the server also the password is saved as in the form of encrypted form. Otherwise, the admin can also see the user's password, right? Though the admin can access users' dashboard and everything, but there are some of the field that needs to be uh, safe, needs to be in safe. For example, like you could take an example of any payment app like a Google Pay or Paytm. Over there, also user creates its own profile. User creates their own profile, their important password and PIN are also asked for during the registration time, and that PIN or password is very important, and it needs to be kept in a safer place so that no one can see, right? And in over there also, if you notice, when user will go for the registration, there will be a pop-up message will come that you can save your password or your user details for the future, and it will be saved. That thing also comes, right? That it will be safe, no one can see, it will be completely protected. How it is protected? So this is because of this reason that even the user uh, during the registration, user is giving the providing the password, but in the database also the raw data, the password is not completely visible. Rather, it is stored in the database as an encrypted file. I hope this clear. Therefore, therefore, what I have used over here in the serializer, that in the serializer, since you can see I have used model serializer. What model serializer does, right? We can customize the model field. So in spite, despite of having all this, apart from this username, the first name, last name, email, role has been created in the database in the model class. Two things I have mentioned over here. One is password confirm, another is password. So basically, extra calls is it is written for if I want to customize something, if I want to. Over here, I mentioned write only equals to true. It means in the postman only during the user input, I can write it over here. But when I'll go for the send button, it password will not be visible. As you can see in the post, the password is not visible over here, right? Not only over here, but in the get when a user is going to fetch his user details over here also, the user cannot see publicly see the password because it is directly getting stored in the database in the form of encrypted fashion, but it is not visible to the user. So the logic over here is I have provided the write only equals to true inside. I can also write over here as well, but I have written over here. This means that user can write in the postman while giving the info while going on the post request, but he or she won't be able to see the output. Okay. Okay. So after that, you can see I have provided all the validation of email, username, and password. That and I have provided some of the characters as well. So password must be at least 8 characters long. Password must contain at least one uppercase. Password must contain at least one digit. All these things. So validate underscore email. So there are certain methods in the serializer class. Which are used for validation. Now, validate underscore email is actually the formula for behind the thing is validate underscore field name. So field name is actually the field name that is created in the model class. This is for the validation of the single field. Now there you can see another method called validate. Well, this method is used when we want to validate fields, not a single field, but more than one field. So if you see over here, validate underscore password, validate underscore username, these methods are doing the validation for a single value. So the value is actually the username, one value. But in the validate, it is actually taking data as a parameter. So this data is not a single value, but it is actually the dictionary. So I have already written over here, data contains the dictionary. All the values are stored as dictionary. So what is this actually? Well, this postman, as you can see, this is in the form of dictionary, right? So, well, basically, this is only the data. This is only the data that's coming in the data format. And over here, as you can see, I have two type of validation has been done. Data dot get is password not equals to. So over here, if the password and the confirmed password are not same, then the pop-up message will come that password do not match. Another I have provided here is if the first name and the last name, if they are equal, then first name and last name cannot be equal. And then I have returned the data. After that, okay, this func method is very important method because right now that I have told about the password encryption, this is what is happening over here. So as you can see, validate underscore data is actually the JSON data that is coming from the postman, this part. Now, so what is doing is, as you can know, dictionary, so validate underscore data is actually a dictionary. The dictionary has a function called pop function. What is doing pop? What the pop method does? Pop is actually removes that particular data, requested data from that dictionary, and it not only removes it, but it also gives you the output. So over here, as you can see, pop password. Now this confirm password, I have popped it out, but I also need the password now. I cannot remove it directly. I also need the password to make it into encrypted fashion. So what I did, I took a variable has been taken over here, and the removed password, the confirmed password has been removed completely. Since both are same, so either we can take confirm password or password, anything. Because at the end of the day, we won't be removing it, but also it must be stored somewhere. So what it has been done, although it is password confirmed, has been removed, and it's also being stored in a variable password. Now the rest right now, so if you see this part, now if you consider this two part has been totally gone. So right now the validated data has updated from this whole part to this part. Now only these fields are there in my validated data. These two have been removed and stored in a variable called password. So that has been done over here by calling the user. So this is a constructor. And over here, this validated underscore data has been sent to the user class in the form of KWRGS works fashion. Now, so user is actually the instance of the user model class. Sorry, now what I'm doing is user dot set password. So user object has a built-in method, built-in function called set underscore password. Over here, I'm providing this password. So this variable is actually has stored the password that user has given. So this needs to be encrypted. So who is doing the encryption? Who is doing the encryption of the raw data? Set underscore password. So this method is actually converting the raw password and into encrypted fashion. So this for due to this line, the password is being, we can see the password in this fashion in encrypted form. I hope it is clear now. So after that, again, after setting the password, it is stored in the database using the save method and then return user. So what user is returned, this value is actually the email. Now after that, when view, so over here, as you can see, in the view class, four classes have been defined over here. One is register, another is login, another will be logout. So today I will be discussing about the register class. In the upcoming videos, I will also talk about what is login, user info, and logout is doing. Okay. Okay. Before coming to the register function, I want to explain about two more module, which is authentication and permission. Now, what is authentication is doing? And what is permission is doing? Well, permission is over here. You can see three type of classes has been performed over. Is professor, is student, and is professor or student. When basically when so in the upcoming videos, I will be also be explaining about when professor. The two type of tasks will be there. Professor will be creating the courses and student will be enrolling for the courses. So there will be certain URL endpoints which will be accessible only for the professor. There will be certain URL endpoints which will be accessible to the only student. Whereas there will be some certain endpoints which is common for both professor and student. This is the reason I have created, so that will come under is professor or student, where both professor and student can access that API endpoint or URL endpoint. This is a part where only user can able to access. This is a function written. The class is defined where the API endpoint is accessible only for the professor. Okay, and then comes the authentication where the all the access token has been generated. Over here, how the access token is generated, how the refresh token is generated, and what is JWT authentication, what is payload, what is headed, everything is defined over here, which I will be talking in the upcoming videos. Today, let's jump to the registration class. So let's open my view function. This is my registration class. As you can see over here, I have created a function, class-based function, where view set has two types of views are there. One is function-based view, another is class-based view. So this is a class-based view, as you can see here. As you can see here, this is a class-based view. This is class register, which is actually inheriting the API. So API is actually the base class of all the view classes, all the class-based view. And not only that, under API, certain fields are there, which is built-in fields. So it is request.data, request.auth, request.user. So what are this? Well, before that, okay, under API view, there are also two fields are also coming to the, which is the inbuilt. Apart from request.data, request.user, request.auth, there are also two fields, which is permission underscore classes and other is authentication underscore classes. Permission underscore classes means you can see over here I have provided, it's a list, and inside the list I've given allow any. Allow any is coming from the permission. There is already a module permission which is coming from REST framework package. So before providing, I had to install a REST framework package. From here you can see those so many modules are coming. So from permission module, two type of, okay, it's better to write it over here than here. Let's remove this. So from permissions module, two functions are classes are coming. One is allow any, another is authenticated. So you can see here allow any means anyone can access. So it can be either professor or user. Obviously, there is no restriction for the registration form, right? Registration can be done by anybody. Okay. What is important over here, over there is a role. This is a very important part, which I will be talking separately in the separate video. That's a very crucial part about the role. But again, registration can be done by anybody. So that's why I've written here allow any, which is a class coming from the permissions module in the REST framework package. Next is authentication underscore classes, which is blank. Why it is blank? Because again, what I've said, those registration API is not authenticated. Anyone can access it. So that's why I provided authentication underscore classes as a blank list. So this is a post function. Now, under this API view, two more methods are provided, built-in methods. One is post, another is get. Post is to post while user is doing the registration. User need to go for the post request so that the data is saved in the database. Another is a get to fetch the data from the database and needs to show it to the user. So this is the post method where you can see the two type of, one is self, another is user, and another is request. Now, since this is a Django REST framework and it's a class-based view, it is different from the function-based view. In the function-based view, two type of request was there. HTTP request, HTTP response, right? So over there, HTTP request was there. But over here, you can see this is not an HTTP request. Rather, this is a request that is coming from the request module, which is again loaded inside the REST underscore framework package. So this is type. This request is actually of class type request that is coming from the request module. So user equals to request.data. So request.data is actually a built-in field coming from API view. Okay, so use request.data is actually the data coming provided by the user. So this is actually the request.data that has been stored inside a user. Well, this can be any, you can give any name. I have provided here user. Okay, I've printed that as well. These are certain validation. This is not mandatory because I have already provided the validation in the serializer part as well. But, but it is written over here. Same thing, that email must be unique and the username also be unique. See over here, I provide username already exists, email already exists, and then password do not match. So I have provided these verification the serializer as well. So this part is not that compulsory. What compulsory is this part when I am passing this data to the user serializer class. Why? To deserialize it. So what serializer does is it converts the JSON type data or complex type data into Python native data type. into Python native data. So this is converting the Python native data and storing it inside the serializer. Now serializer is checking for the validation. So when is valid has been called, it is actually checking for these validation. After in the serializer, after this validation has been successfully passed, then it is going to the serializer.save. Now, before hitting the serializer.save, this serializer.save means use after every validations, the data will be successfully saved in the database. But before performing this line, system calls this create method defined inside the serializer class. System calls this create method where the set underscore password encryption implementation is there. Not only that, user can do any logic over here, any type of validations over here. But this part is very mandatory. This is by default there. If I do not provide this method as well, by default it will be called before the save method is being performed. So after this create has been performed, then only the system will successfully uh, run this line, successfully run this line, which is user.save. Sorry, not this line is user.save, and then return responsive. Then it will return the data. Now this is where we can able to see this value. Okay. So I'm stopping the video up to this since this has been a very long video. So I will be resuming the rest of the part in the upcoming videos. Okay. I hope you understood and enjoyed and thank you.